Americans For Fair Taxation presents the weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans For Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, August 27th, 2021. Today's Chairman's Report is written by Jade Walle. Now, Jade is a partner in a CPA firm and is on the board of Americans For Fair Taxation. He uses the analogy of putting a golf ball as he explains how government regulations and income payroll taxes make it more and more difficult for businesses to survive and prosper. Businesses crave stability. The United States of America was set up to be the premier business marketplace where free enterprise was the status quo, and the only limitations on one's success was the quality of their product or service. The putt was short, quite makeable, so to speak, as long as the product or service was desirable and of good quality. In fact, our 10th Amendment ensures, at least in theory, that the federal government will stay out of the way of our business endeavors. That 10th Amendment says that powers not specifically granted to the federal government by the Constitution belong to the states, and the original Constitution delegated as little power to the federal government as possible. Now, it's a good and proper thing that regulations and restrictions on our commercial undertakings are limited. Anyone who has ever owned a business, been a partner or co-owner of a business, managed a business, or even worked at a for-profit business inherently understands the challenges and complexities associated with business management. The most difficult aspect of starting, owning, or successfully running a business should be whether or not the product or service being offered is desired in the marketplace, and whether everyday people like you and me find value in what's being offered and sold. When regulation, including U.S. corporate and other taxation, enters into the business paradigm, an inexorably complex and multifaceted web of torturous and Byzantine rules and laws become an everyday aspect of running a business. The putt has been significantly lengthened. Now, the U.S. payroll and income tax, the latter of which has been part of the U.S. business universe since 1913, began small, but has grown into a monstrosity that consumes 8.9 billion hours and approximately $600 billion per year of our U.S. citizens and businesses' time, treasure, and talent. The fact that every few years significant changes to the U.S. income tax code are enacted into law exacerbates the already convoluted amalgamation of nearly 77,000 pages of U.S. income tax laws and regulations that every single one of us are responsible to fully understand, apply to our personal and business activities, and accurately comply with. The putt has been lengthened even further. In fact, it's so long now I can barely see the ball. The FAIRtax is a simple, transparent, and effective means of funding the federal government at the same level as the income tax, but it does so without the complications, difficulties, barriers, and other hurdles that our income tax system imposes on individuals and businesses. Now just imagine, with the FAIRtax as the law of the land and the 16th Amendment repealed, businesses would not have to worry about frequent changes to corporate, partnership, S-corp, or other business-related income taxes because there would be no income tax whatsoever, and the U.S. becomes the world's tax haven at the same time. The putt is shortened considerably, and the ball is now perhaps no longer on the fringe, but actually back on the green. Let's take this a little further. Now, not only would enacting the FAIRtax ensure that companies would not have to anticipate, guess at, and ultimately plan for changes to corporate and business income tax rules and regulations, they would not have to plan for, budget for, pay for, or otherwise deal with any form of business taxation whatsoever. Companies would be free to concentrate on what they hopefully do best, which is make, market, and distribute great products and services to their customers. The putt is dramatically shortened again. At this point, in golf parlance, we'd call this a gimmie. Now, for those of you who don't play golf, a gimmie is where the ball is resting so close to the hole that you don't even make the player tap it in. The FAIRtax, just like a gimmie in golf, results in the American people picking up their ball and moving on to the next hole without spending billions of hours and dollars figuring out how they're going to make a 40-yard putt. In this case, Americans can move on to their next endeavor free of the impediments that our income payroll tax system has made us so accustomed to. In conclusion, now many of us may not be golfers, but we can all understand the point that Jade's making here. We often ask the question, why don't our members of Congress see this plain truth? The answer is that they do, but their strings are being pulled not by us, but by the ruling class, and the ruling class is only looking to help themselves and the people who pay them. To them, we're just little people who only have to be tolerated, but we've got a lot more leverage than most people realize. We the people have the power to demand that our representatives do the right thing or face getting thrown out of office. So, what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives demanding that if the government really wants to eliminate the burden of filing income tax returns, they should enact the fair tax and do away with tax returns altogether. The great 18th century Irish statesman Edmund Burke made a statement that applies in many ways. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. Take back control. Help us pass the fair tax. The IRS will be gone and we'll pay our taxes when we make purchases. We, not the ruling class and their minions in D.C., will decide how much federal tax we pay. Now, if you have friends who don't know about the fair tax, send them to FAIRtax.org. Have them watch the whiteboards under how it works, and if they agree, ask them to please join us. Then, contact your members of Congress and the President and demand that Congress pass the fair tax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans For Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.